So today we are going to give a presentation about the link between heroin and prescription drugs. Heroin falls under opioid medication. Opioids are mainly used as a form of pain relief. Medication as such are strictly forbidden, but there are some opioids which can be obtained through medical subscription, like Oxycontin, Vicodin, and Demerol. There are some there is a legal way to obtain these drugs. In the US alone, half of opioid-induced deaths come from prescription drug. Because it's illegal, the link between heroin and prescription drug misuse can be easily explained. Heroin is illegal and is very bad for your health. And heroin addicts who still want to use heroin but who don't want to get in trouble with the law can get the effects of the opioid by getting the prescription drugs. Because this kind of medication is legal and prescribed by a doctor, the addicts can continue with his addiction, and that's a very bad thing. Heroin is also very addictive. Taking too much is never a good thing. Taking too much will get a person dependent on the drugs, and without the drugs, the pain they are feeling can be relieved. Um, an example of extreme use effects is rapper Eminem. Not too long ago, the rapper overdosed on Vicodin, which he was addicted to for many, many years. So we should be looking to avoid these worldwide problems.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the accessibility of these opioids, of medicine in general in the United States of America. A lot of drugs are freely given in drugstores, but some of the drugs, like what was said before, are prescription drugs, and they should be given per prescription by a doctor. But also, these drugs are given quite freely, so you could say that the nature of the attitude Americans have towards prescription drugs and medicine is quite um, casual. They don't think of it as too heavy. Um, because of the opioids that are prescribed quite freely, a lot of people became addicted to it, which had its peak in 2011, the epidemic of addiction to opioids. And because of this, a lot of states strictened their policies towards giving these drugs, and they also monitored doctors that would give out these prescriptions. This way, a lot of people who became addicted to the opioids became addicted to heroin because they had to find something else to feed their addiction. Um, I don't particularly agree with this because, of course, in heroin, street heroin, a lot of times there's fentanyl, and fentanyl is 50 times more addictive than your usual opioid. This means they became very dependent on this heroin, and also taking too much would instantly kill you. Uh, we don't agree with this because taking away something that abruptly is wrong, and we think they should give these patients another option or maybe some time to recover from the addiction.
Now that we got a clear view about what is happening in the United States, I will compare three other countries to, I will analyze like what's the ratio between the abuse of heroin and prescription drugs, and what policies do these countries have to prevent this kind of abuse. Countries I will compare are the Netherlands, France, and Jamaica. Well, first Netherlands. Netherlands, according to studies, the estimated numbers of high-risk heroin use is over 15,000 people, and most of the people, and even more, are misusing prescription drugs. Their use can be qualified as a misuse because most of these people don't even need this kind of drugs. It's very easy to get your hands on some drugs in the Netherlands. So uh, the Dutch policy is making it now very difficult to get your hands on on this kind of drugs because most of the every doctor and pharmacies are obligated to maintain a very strict file of every patient that's receiving medicine. So it's very hard to get your hands on some medicine. And in France, uh, the estimated high risk use is over 5 per 1,000 of the adult popularity. And it's like most of these people are also misusing drugs, uh, prescription drugs. So it was very easy back in the days to get your hands on some prescription drugs in France because most of the doctors that were describing this kind of drugs weren't licensed or didn't have any training. But with the change of policy, it's most of the doctors became primary care doctors. So most of the heroin users became receiving the treatment they actually needed. And in Jamaica, it like those the countries I just analyzed, it was like the healthcare was very accessible. But in Jamaica, it's the healthcare is more like a luxury that only wealthy people can afford. And because of that, Jamaica has a special court treatment that is rather based on the treatment of of an individual than a trial. And because of these three countries, these three countries, what they have, it's like based on that, we think that America should also stricten their policy and be more careful with their uh, prescription medicine.